Cochrane's participation in the Partners for Climate Protection program? Is it serving local or global priorities? I guess I gotta find my keys here. Oh. So over 20 years ago, in April 2004, the then Cochrane Town Council unanimously adopted a motion to participate as a member of the PCP program. I suspect a lot, if not all of you, are unaware of this and wondering, what is the PCP program? So let me give you a little bit of background. First, it's important to note that this program was launched 30 years ago in 1994 as a joint initiative of the Canadian subsidiary of ICLEI, the International Council for Local Environmental Initiatives, together with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. These are two organizations that have been a driving force behind the adoption of climate action plans across Canada. The PCP program receives financial support from ICLEI Canada and as well from the FCM's Green Municipal Fund, which in turn is generously funded by the Trudeau federal government. Thus, the GMF leverages a $1.65 billion and growing investment from the Government of Canada to give municipalities the tools to accelerate their transition to a resilient, net zero, sustainable future and help Canada reach its 2050 targets for net zero emissions. As far as ICLEI, an organization founded by the United Nations in 1990, apart from membership fees, it receives funding from a variety of sources, including the Government of Canada, the European Union, private investors like Google, and the United Nations. The Federation of Canadian Municipalities includes more than 2,100 cities and communities from coast to coast, representing over 92% of Canadians, shaping the national agenda. 98% of the Alberta municipal population, including all the members of once was the CMRB, are members of the FCM. The FCM represents itself as the national voice for Canada's local governments. However, as I've come to understand, this organization, offering programs aligned with United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, should more properly be called the United Nations voice for Canada's local governments. Offering programs aligned with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and pressuring municipalities to prioritize international mandates over locally defined priorities, eroding their autonomy and independence. As declared here on an FCM banner, local action leads to national results. The globalists understand full well the importance of their tentacles reaching down to our local municipal governments, large and small, to achieve their objectives. Justin Trudeau has been a regular attendee at FCM's annual meetings in appreciation of his good ally, who he has richly endowed through the Municipal Green Fund. Now, Trudeau's appreciation of FCM's efforts to support municipalities with respect to sustainability and local climate change action is understandable, given that speaking in 2017 about penetrating the cabinets of various nations with World Economic Forum young global leaders, WEF Chairman Klaus Schwab announced that he was very proud of Justin Prime Minister Trudeau and that half or even more than half of his cabinet are actually young global leaders of the World Economic Forum. The other partner managing and shepherding the Partners for Climate Protection program is the Canadian subsidiary of ICLEI. ICLEI started with the World Congress of Local Governments for Sustainable Future meeting that was held at the United Nations in 1990 and describes itself, quote, as a global network of more than 2,500 local and regional governments committed to sustainable urban development. ICLEI is active in more than 125 countries. Its Canadian office is located in Toronto, and its international headquarters, World Secretariat, is located in Bonn, Germany. ICLEI Canada speaks of the importance of local action to achieve its objectives. Thus, local action moves the world, and global action starts where? Locally. Are we getting the clear message as to how the globalists operate and accomplish their goals? So let's meet the ICLEI staff at their Toronto office. No, I don't like that our town would be subject to the whims of an unelected, unaccountable, entitled group of people located in Toronto, Ontario, which in turn is subject to an administration located in Bonn, Germany, that is aligned with the United Nations. The PCP program leadership boasts that over 500 Canadian municipalities, representing 70% of the Canadian population, are participating in the PCP program. 25 Alberta municipalities are listed as members, 3 of which are part of the then Calgary Metropolitan Regional Board, namely the City of Calgary, of course, which as well is a member of ICLEI Canada, and also the town of Okotoks and the town of Cochrane. The PCP program provides a 5-step milestone framework for municipalities to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and align with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Namely, step 1, create an inventory, then set a target, then develop a plan, implement the plan, monitor your impact, then repeat. While this program is voluntary, both the FCM, ICLEI, and the Government of Canada explicitly waive liability for the outcomes of the program. Representatives from ICLEI Canada and FCM form the PCP Secretariat to guide and support municipalities as they move through the milestone framework implementing changes. A question: did the people of Cochrane elect these people to determine the priorities of our community? In the spring of 2023, I wrote to the PCP Secretariat asking about the status of Cochrane's participation in the PCP program, and I received a reply from the Secretariat member shown here on bottom left, Mr. Adler Gross, who represents ICLEI Canada. He called me Ross, everybody does. According to Mr. Adler Gross, him, quote, the town of Cochrane is indeed a PCP member and has achieved milestone 3, that is, has developed a plan for both community and corporate. However, Cochrane is listed as inactive as we have not received any submissions in recent years, which may be the reason for it not showing up on the map. On recently contacting the town administration about the program, I was informed, quote, while we may be listed on the website, we're not active participants, nor do we have any dedicated resources committed towards this effort. I suspect that the reason that Cochrane is not currently an active participant in advancing the PCT program, currently stuck at the milestone 3 stage, is the departure of Mr. Devin LaFlèche, who was hired by the town as the town's sustainability and transit coordinator in 2018, a position that was partly funded for 2 years through a program of Alberta's Municipal Climate Change Action Center. His mandate as municipal energy manager included a responsibility to implement greenhouse gas emission reducing projects. In September 2022, he left the town of Cochrane to take up a position with Rocky View County. The $103,800 study to potentially electrify the cold buses jointly funded by the town of Cochrane, carrying $20,760 of the cost, and the Trudeau government carrying the remainder of the cost through its zero-emission transit fund, was his parting gift to the town of Cochrane. Thankfully, the implementation of electrification was deemed infeasible at present. With that, I'd like to conclude by recommending that a councillor at a regular council meeting makes a motion to withdraw Cochrane from its participation in the Partners for Climate Protection program, that is, making it permanently inactive in this program, and thereby focusing on locally driven priorities unencumbered by ideological thinking. And with that, I conclude. Thank you for your attention. Thank you.
I'll wait till the applause dies down. Thanks, Mr. Voss. That was interesting and informative. Turn to my council colleagues for questions or comments. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation, Mr. Voss. I have just one question for administration, which I would assume might come back to me at a different time than tonight, because the information might not all be before you, but I'd just like to hear more about what Cochrane's current status in the PCP program is. I believe I just heard through the presentation that we were once signed up to it. 2014 is what I heard here, and that we're no longer participants in it.
2004, not 2014.
Thank you. 2004, I wrote that down wrong. That's my fault. So just to get an update of where we currently sit with the PCP program in Cochrane, it's the first I've ever heard of it, and if there's anything to even withdraw from. If I could just hear an answer on that tonight.
Through the chair to Councillor Wilson, I can answer that question, as I was the one who responded to Mr. Voss. We're currently not active in this space with the PCP. That is from 2004, so 21 years ago. The application that Mr. Lafleche worked on was a separate application, not directly associated with this. We don't have anybody actively working in this space, and that reflects the comments that I shared with Mr. Voss previously.
Thank you. And quick follow-up on that, if a councillor was to make this motion, is there anything to withdraw from? I suppose we could formally contact this organization to withdraw our name from it. Is that an actionable item?
We could certainly explore that and report back to council if that was your wish.
That would be my wish. I'd be interested in that. Like the presenter tonight, this sort of speech does bother me a lot. I mentioned it during our LUB, land use bylaw and vision document, where there was a few mentions to things like climate change and I believe net zero emissions also in the envision document, and that caused me to not vote for it. And anywhere I see that in our local town documents, it concerns me, because I also agree that, how was it phrased during the presentation? I thought you hit it right on the head here, international mandates over local priorities, and I think this is outside of the municipal context, and it causes me alarm to think what outcomes might come if we're focusing on net zero emissions for any of our policy documents in Cochrane. And so I think it would be useful just to come back to us if the group agrees, to hear if there is something to withdraw from. I'd be interested in withdrawing from it. I'd be willing to make that motion. Thank you for the presentation, Mr. Voss and Dog with a Bone.
Thank you.
Councillor Frederico.
Thank you, Mr. Voss. To be honest, I didn't even know that we were a member.
Well, I expected that.
or a part of this. So I guess I had some questions like, why are we on the website to begin with? I don't necessarily like tying it to a particular person, right? That might have been a staff member, because I don't even know if that person even necessarily understood why they have been tied to this project. I do agree with Councillor Wilson. I'd like to hear some more information from administration as to us even being a partner. I don't even understand why we're a partner. Obviously, I was not on council in 2004. I have no idea why we've remained a partner since 2004, considering I've only been elected since 2017. I've got some concerns, and I guess I just want some answers to those concerns. And it has nothing to do with, perhaps you brought up a lot of good points, but I need to understand the greater context of why we were a member to begin with. And that I'm not sure exactly. So until we get that information, I am thankful that you brought this forward because it does tie into one of the many reasons of why we're on some sort of boards, committees, that this council seems to have no idea why we're actually a part of them to begin with. So I think that's a starting block for me, understanding why we're there. And if we get that information, we can move on.
Anything else? I don't see any other comments from my colleagues. I just would like to
Could I
thank you
have just a
again.
minute to respond about not really being that active?
Sure.
Okay. So we have the study to electrify the Colt buses. That was initiated by Mr. LaFlèche. We have an e-scooter program that was launched in 2021, and it's identified as one of the goals of limiting carbon emissions. Okay, and that was the same idea for electrifying the buses. We have the electric vehicle chargers across from the station. That happened in 2020 as a result of initiative of our mayor. And that was done also to reduce greenhouse gases. So there has been a lot of activity, and it hasn't been that inactive. Thank you very much.
I think Councilor Federico has one more comment for you. Maybe not.
I appreciate those points, and you are right. There have been those projects that have come to light. However, I have no idea that it ties back to the same type of thing that you're talking about, right? The same climate, like the same PCP, right? Like I understand that those are all things that have come forward, but that's just kind of a reality over time, right? It's not just us that have talked about having electric scooters, electrified buses, electrified ports of people in charge of vehicles. I don't necessarily see that as being tied to the particular committee. That's the information that I'm looking for. And when I get that information, then I can probably make a more definitive action or response to it. But at the end of the day, I mean, some of this stuff has just been environmentally advanced altogether, right? And whether or not we agree with it or we don't, that's kind of the trend that we see not only within Canada, within the world context. And so I would like to hear more about the fact of how we've been involved in this from a local level. And if we don't agree, then let's just end our involvement, because I don't understand we're involved with something that I don't necessarily understand why we are involved with it to begin with, right? You can't take a worldwide idea of electrifying buses, electrifying scooters, trying to make the environment a better place without actually understanding how this ties into the local level context of being a representative on a committee. When I get that, that's when I'll make a decision. So it's not to suggest that I don't support it. I just need to understand it from a local Cochrane context. And so thank you for bringing that forward to us local people that live here.
Anything else, Councilor Federico? Okay. So the takeaways then are Councilor Wilson's indication that just an update from administration in a future meeting, which would result in a council discussion at a council meeting about whether we would continue to be a part of this group. But I think this is an informative presentation, and grateful to Mr. Voss and Dog with a Bone. Thank you all. Okay, we'll move on then to item 5A.